But why do you think, Josh, like, why do you think it happens that, like, I've seen it happened to me also in the past that, like, whenever, like, we are about to make a change, like, there's this feeling of fear which cripples into the back of our mind that, hey, like, don't do this or
Mhm.
stop. So what do you think, like, that fear is, or where it is coming from, like, and how do you think, like, is the best way to overcome that? Because, like, what the approach I took was, I heard Mel Robbins. So she gave a very beautiful, like, technique that whenever, like, you're trying to talk yourself out of something, just go 5 4 3 2 1 and
Mhm.
then, like, go back to doing the thing again. So that personally changed me. But what do you think, like, is your go-to thing, or like, what do you think, like, is the best way to overcome this, where, like, you just, like, snap out of it and go back into moving towards the decision?
Mhm. Well, for me, a lot of it has become breathing techniques, which I think was a key element of that
Uh-huh.
book that I was talking about, the Book of the
Uh-huh.
Dead.
Yeah.
I think that was something that they were striving towards, and it's something that we haven't understood up until, I would say, the past liberally 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount that breath has control of our lives has been more and more researched, and it's becoming more and more understood. And I really think
Yeah.
that's for me a very significant part of my process is breathing techniques and controlling autonomic nervous system. So the
Mm-hmm.
autonomic nervous system isn't actually automatic like you would suspect from the Latin translation,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we can control it a little bit more. And for me, especially, I found this while playing sports. It was this difference between being high and being low, and knowing when to be high and when to be low, and developing
Uh-huh.
the breath and the body control
Yeah.
to release norepinephrine, adrenaline,
Mm-hmm.
and how to scale that back. So I've even been playing with that a little bit more recently.
So
Uh,
you're saying we can control that?
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of a good example. Um, so one thing that's super interesting is something I've been thinking about for a while now is there's this thing called synesthesia, which is the ability to combine or perceive stimuli differently.
Uh-huh.
That's a bad definition, but I'll try to explain it a little bit more with this example.
Okay.
So sometimes you're born with tons and tons of connections in your brain,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and over time they get pruned, so they get taken away step by step by step. And one of them is this thing called synesthesia, where people can see sound.
They can see sound?
Yeah, so you play a key on a keyboard and someone says,
Yeah.
well, that sounds yellow,
Oh,
that
okay.
sounds red, something like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
So Billy Joel's someone that had synesthesia. I think Lady Gaga has synesthesia as well.
Uh-huh.
So it just hasn't been pruned the way that it has in lots of other people. And in that way, it's this combination between what we perceive and what we think.
Uh-huh.
So when you see sound, obviously
Yeah.
it's as real as it could be. But there are a lot of other examples. So if you ever take someone for a date
Mm-hmm.
and you get them an iced coffee, they'll consider your personality potentially colder than if you were to get them a warm coffee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we have all of these connections in our brain that are really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
We can't pull them apart. We can't say that this is here and this is here and they're mutually
Uh-huh.
exclusive. Nothing can combine those two. So one thing that I practice is cold shower breathing.
Okay.
And so I get into a shower, put it as cold as it can go, and just breathe. And that breathing and that stress that's being put onto my body and my mind, that
Uh-huh.
actually increases your capacity to undergo stress at a later date.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
it's this epigenetic change of you're not only experiencing the stress, but you're increasing your capacity to
Mm-hmm.
experience stress in the future.
Yeah.
So I really think that that's a good philosophy to go about anything that you feel stressed about, is saying, I feel stressed about this. If I jump into this thing, then it'll make me less stressed in the future, as long as I handle it
Yeah.
properly, as long as I
Yeah.
handle it and understand that this is a process,
Mm-hmm.
and that everything that we do, as long as we do it even in the mindset that we're growing and that we're improving, that will
Yeah.
improve our results. So Carol Dweck is someone that talks about this a lot, and she's developed this whole new side of psychology called growth mindset. And that's this idea that we have so much plasticity in our brains, and we can change the way that we think about things. And the more that we believe that everything is process oriented and process driven and
Yeah.
not result driven, then the more we can increase our capacity. And that makes sense not only neurologically but philosophically, because if you say I can't get any better at this, or I'm just
Yeah.
not a good drawer, I'm not a good writer, I'm not good at this, then you're never going to give yourself the chance, and you're never going to get better at that. So to
True.
understand things as a
True.
process, and knowing that our brain is plastic enough to create new neural circuitry and
Uh-huh.
combine things and improve at things and grow in the way that we want it to, it's really a tool, but it's also a master. And I think that's the best way to look at the brain, is that we can mold it to become a better version of ourselves. So we're working on each other
Yeah.
simultaneously.
Yeah. Wow, man, that's like pretty like interesting.